Hello fellow scholars of the American Revolution, my name is Joseph Provost here today to talk to you a little bit about the spying of the American Revolution, particularly the ones that were started by George Washington. Many of you have seen the TV series Turn, or might have read Brian Kilmeade's book Washington's Secret Six. And I want to bring to you today a little bit of light and knowledge on the fact that the spirings and the espionage of the American Revolution, I think, was clearly one of the contributing factors that caused the Americans to be able to win the war of the American Revolution. General Edmund Thompson, he was the former Assistant Chief of Staff of Intelligence for the Department of the Army, states that Washington stands at the front of the nation's, quote, great captains of intelligence. It's quite a significant assertion. He was a master of deception, and General Edmund Thompson goes on to state that it was the need of the day. So Washington, again, he was very likable in some ways, in some other ways not so much, but he was he studied the military treatises, and he had a natural, quote, flair for the game, as Thompson spoke about. And he stated that the necessity for espionage was dictated in large part by the weakness of the Continental Army. If you look at the Continental Army, we talked about last week, common soldiers, and how many of them did not have the same beliefs or the same ideologies as many of their leaders, but they had their own reasons for contributing to the war effort. Given that the fact that there was many weaknesses in that, Washington had to come up with a spy system in order to gain some gainful intelligence to hopefully get the upper hand in the war. Morton Pennybaker, writing in the Quarterly Journal of the New York State Historical Association, states that Washington was able to use multiple levels in his spying to protect information and the spies themselves. In many cases, Washington would use 5 or more different spies in order to get the information across. One message, 5 spies. Hopefully that ring, that multiplicity or the multiple types of levels would protect the individuals themselves to keep the information flowing freely. Where you see that this is problematic is if you look at the history of Nathan Hale. I mean, he was 1 week as a spy, and in that 1 week, boom, done. I mean, hung and whatnot, because he thought that he was giving information with a fellow spy, not trained in the act of spycraft too well, and he gave the information to a British spy. Probably not the best idea, and he paid for it with his life. We talk about his great patriotism about it now, but in fact he was a failed experiment, if you will, for the espionage of the day. Michael Sulik, writing in Spying in America in 2012, states that espionage was a natural progression of the American Revolution and of the times. He states that the American Revolution was born in secrecy, from the coffee houses to the committees of correspondence to the actual natural event of the American Revolution, where espionage was the catalyst, if you will, to send the British up to Concord to secure the stores and the weapons. And in many cases, the espionage was what was the guiding force between many of the decisions that were made by Washington, the Congress, and various generals and military leaders, on both sides of the war. And today I'm only speaking primarily about the Americans, but I think it's really critical for us to understand that without the espionage capabilities that Washington was able to cultivate under himself and Benjamin Talmadge and some others that were there, I don't think that the outcome would have been the same in the war for independence. And I think if you look at Washington and his greatness in this very specific area, and you look at where we are today in the 21st century, we have the Central Intelligence Agency, we have spy all across the world, in large part due to Washington's capabilities, his strength, and his willingness to go the extra mile, and sometimes to be wrong, but many times to be right. And in fact, I think his intelligence capabilities in espionage was what eventually won the war and got the British to surrender at Yorktown, because of his ability to deceive. And as we go forward from this day here, I want you to think about how today our day and age is greatly influenced by the past. The past really helps us understand our current realities, or some of the things that we are engaging with in our 21st century, and how one person can make a difference for the world over. So until next time, thank you for watching, and so long.